Today we're going to try and beat Castlevania Curse of Darkness without jumping as Trevor. This video was inspired by the Sacrifice who did this challenge as Hector to beat the game without jumping. I highly recommend going and watching their video on that. Here we are specifically using Trevor. Our rules for this are going to be we're banning jumping, double jumps, and jump kicks. Everything else is going to be allowed. In the abandoned castle, there aren't many rooms where we would usually need to jump. Thus we can actually go through the abandoned castle pretty quickly and easily. The mountains is where we're going to run into the first problem with this run. We're going to try and grab the MP up in the battle idea room. Usually we would just jump and grab it, but since we can't do that, we're going to have to do something else. With Trevor, if you do square square circle square as your combo, but that will put you in the air, it's going to replace our jump for pretty much the rest of the game. In most cases it will be good enough. But the problem with that is we're going to need to grab the ledge of the platform, which can be a problem moving forward. Though, with enough tries we'll get it. In Trevor mode, the aqueduct is open without having to go through the rest of the mountains or the Garibaldi Temple. So we'll go there instead of doing either. In the aqueduct there are small ledges you'd usually have to jump to get up, but we have combo which we can use to replace our jump, as long as the enemies aren't being auto-targeted or attacking us or otherwise in our way. We're going to grab the circle tip because it's an improvement to the attack power we have, and it's also going to be our second whip, which is going to be important in just a bit. The room with the gunnery seat is one of the main problems for any of our jumpless challenges for this game. If there were not enemies in the room, we could just do the combo, put ourselves in the air, and then IJ across the gap. However, there are enemies in the room, which get auto-targeted. Instead, we can use Knife Crash to take out the enemy on the gunnery seat. Then we're going to do an air combo into our IJ so we land next to the gunnery seat, because the combo alone in this case doesn't give enough height to land up there. Then we're going to get up onto the gunnery seat and shoot down the tower that forms a bridge. falling down to the lower floor isn't required. We could go through the 2 hallways that put us in the same room, and we'd have to fight the fisherman. Either way. Due to our restrictions we're currently operating on, we actually could go to Dracula's castle from here, but I decided to not do that because there's a few other things that are a bit more interesting in the game if we don't do the glitch to get into Dracula's castle as soon as possible. In the forest, I'm picking up some of the stat upgrades, such as an HP up that's in a wall, which we're using Grand Cross to break. And I also decided it'd be good to pick up some of the elemental whips. And in this area, we can get the ice whip, which is useful later, especially for the Isaac fights. Pretty much nothing happens in Cordova Town either. There's no place we need to jump. In the Isaac fight, what I want to happen is either Abel will be frozen so it won't be attacking, or will be stunlocked by Knife Crash so it won't be attacking. Once you have Abel stunlocked or frozen, the fight becomes pretty trivially easy, especially since we're using ice elemental damage, with which Isaac happens to be weak to in this game. In the machine tower, I end up having to use time stop twice to get up the stairs because I couldn't jump onto them to start with. The worst case that could happen for that is running out of hearts, but I could just use perfect hearts to restore hearts if there's enemies that can attack me, which there are pretty much all throughout the area, so it's not that much of a concern. Flying enemies really aren't a problem with Trevor because we have Knife Crash, which will target them as long as they're the only enemies, and Knife Crash does tons of damage super fast, despite the fact that it doesn't do tons and tons of damage per hit. It just does so many hits. It can by itself take out a good amount of the flying enemies that would otherwise potentially be problematic. I end up using Grand Cross to get to the Thunder Whip, and then I can go through the area up to the boss room backwards because of the magic circles that Trevor has. This skips where we'd have to hit the gear and break a wall going the other way, which is on top of a staircase, so we don't need to get on top of that staircase, in case that would usually require jumping. Saint Germain isn't especially difficult. The worst thing that he could do is spam his time moves. Here we can just use the stopwatch and cancel all those, as long as we have enough hearts for it. Again, we could use perfect hearts to restore our hearts, but there is a limit. If he stops time too much without giving us other attacks, we'd either have to perfect guard the time stop moves, to restore more hearts. Granted, for time stops specifically, if you could jump, you jump where you'd land on top of Saint Germain, and at the cost of 1 of your HP, you wouldn't get subjected to the time stop attack. But we can't jump in this, so can't do that. The only semi-interesting thing that happens in the Trevor Doppelganger fight here is I end up spamming the Holy Water Crash because I got a bit low on HP. Final guards have shields that you basically can't hit them through. However, if you use Time Stop, you can hit them regardless. And they're also weak to the Thunder Whip, so we're using that. I end up grabbing the Holy Whip in this area, where with Hector you would need Long Glide. But since we have Magic Circles, we can just take the Magic Circle. And then we do have to, however, do a combo. But once we grab the Holy Whip, so we get back down, so we can go back up the side we initially come from. The Dullahan fight was giving me some trouble while I was trying to perfect guard the jump attack. However, it's much easier to use Grand Cross because when you use it on the ground, it puts you in the air and suspends you in the air long enough to avoid the attack. Dracula's Castle doesn't have that many challenges for jumpless. Magic Circles take you through anything where Innocent Devils would be needed with Hector. I go grab the square tip in this area near the Throne of Bones because it's has better attack power than the circle tip, which I had been using. The stairs leading up to the exit fight can be navigated with the combo, and you might need some IJs, but it's nothing we haven't seen already. We can stun lock Isaac if we keep our knife crash going, and we can just continue to hit him with the Ice Whip, and eventually he'll get defeated without summoning any of the Innocent Devils, making the fight significantly easier. Death doesn't have anything especially difficult, and we have Grand Cross if we want to keep up damage while avoiding his side swings. The last staircase in the game has one place where you'd normally need to jump, but we can use the combo instead of jumping there. For the first part of the last boss, we're going to use the Holy Whip since he is weak to it. The second part, we switch to the square tip since he loses the elemental weaknesses. I do some weapon canceling here to cancel Trevor's current action, and then I can quick step or perfect guard or start attacking again immediately after I leave the pause menu, instead of having to wait for the attack I'm doing to finish or most other actions I could be doing. So, with the rules that I've used, it is possible to beat Castlevania Curse of Darkness as Trevor without jumping. If someone else wants to try this challenge, I would suggest banning the use of Grand Cross or the height gaining combo I was using, and potentially making it more difficult in one of those ways, because those are the two ways I know for a fact you can gain height off the ground with Trevor. Thank you very much for watching this video, and special thanks to the Sacrifice for inspiring this video to be made. If you haven't already, you should watch their video about beating the game as Hector without jumping.